Hey guys, welcome back. This is Dom at the Dragon's Lair Forge and Studio, and today we're going to do another video on the basics of blacksmithing. Alright, so what I want to talk about today is how to forge a point. Seems like an easy thing to do, but it's actually a really good exercise to do when you're first learning, and we need to do that shape all the time because we need to draw out our material, make it thinner, and if we're doing structural or if we're doing something for a customer, we may have to end up with a certain dimension. So all these skills that I'm demonstrating here, I'm getting that from Mark Aspery's book series. So the skill of the blacksmith, that's a series here. And then mastering the fundamental of blacksmithing. That's really what we are doing here. So great books to get, very useful. And then eventually, once we master all these things, if we can, it can lead, you can use that and it builds up toward the Abana certification. So that's my plan. I'm going to go through all this exercise and then that's going to help me get better. So the first thing we need to do, I'll put this. What we're going to talk about is what they call the Sword Dac Principle. What I mean by Sword Dac, it's an acronym. SORDAC. And that's kind of a step process to draw our point. So by S is square, if we have a square bar, or if we don't, we always start by drawing over a square. O for octagonal, 8-sided. Right, so we're gonna have our square here. I don't know if you guys can see what will happen. We'll start with a square, break down the corners. Round, diagonal or diamond, and chisel tip, which what we're going to finish up. So if we're doing a punch, if we're doing a chisel, even doing hammers, doing stretching pins, scrolls, we're going to go through all these different shapes. So we're going to start with a square bar. This is 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch, mild steel. And then we're going to just draw a point using those principles. So what we want to do first is we want to measure out a predetermined length so we know how long to forge our taper. So our maximum length, as for this exercise, we're just going to use the width of this anvil. It's about 3 inches. So we're going to try to do a really nice even taper at the end of this bar of 3 inches long. Alright guys, here's what we're going to do. So what I want to do is I want to stretch this bar. We're going to have to create a taper or point. That's our end goal. And what we're going to do is we're going to start by slowly lifting the end up slightly. And we're not going to be forging right here in the middle of the face, because you can see what's happening. I'm already bottoming out on the anvil, and that's going to damage my anvil, and I'm not going to be able to do what I want to do. So we're going to be forging over the edge of the anvil. We're going to raise this slightly up, so we're going to try to get a matching face on the other side, and we're going to be hitting on the corner. And now you can see I have full access to my steel without damaging my anvil. So this is how we're going to do this. We're going to be doing the square principle of the Sordac. So by that is we're going to be forging, not that we're starting with a square bar, even if we had a round bar, it wouldn't matter. We're going to push this square out, and we're going to hit on one side, and then we're going to forge only on 2 sides. Top, bottom. The anvil will be hitting from the bottom, and then we'll go back and forth. So we'll go back and forth, and then we will stretch our point up to 2 and some inches up to here, and then we're going to do the next phase after that. So let's do that. We're going to start with a sharp point, short, and then we will stretch it to the required length. So we always start from the end, and we're going to start with, see, I'm going on two sides, I'm doing this square point. You can see here I got my point established. It's not super pointy. We'll do one more heat. Alright, just gonna get that nice and pointy. Using light blows. Now that I got my point established, we can stretch it out. We're going to keep forging on two sides till it reaches the length that we require. With this project, we want to keep it smooth as we're moving along. So I am dressing with my hammer, my bar, as I'm working it. You know, if we find that sweeping up on one side, we're going to adjust. We're going to try to keep these edges crisp. We're almost there. So I'm not going to forge any longer. If I wanted to, I could do maybe a little more. There's still some heat, but we only use the black heat for planishing. We don't move material at that temperature. Project. We want to keep it smooth as we're moving along. So I am dressing with my hammer, my bar, as I'm working it. You know, if we find that sweeping up on one side, we're going to adjust. We're going to try to keep these edges crisp. We're almost there. So I'm not going to forge any longer. If I wanted to, I could do maybe a little more. There's still some heat, but we only use the black heat for planishing. We don't move material at that temperature. So we're going to try to keep our transition clean. We're almost there. I'm just going to push that line. I don't know if you can see, I'm moving my hammer slightly towards me to crisp up the line. So we have our length. Now I'm just straightening it. sure if you can see with the reflection of the light, we have a crisp line ending our taper. So we forge this point to the square. Now we're going to do the octagonal part to make it punch. Now we're going to forge on the end, on the diamond. Now we will forge, we'll break the points down, we'll do our octagon, starting on the tip, right up to our taper, and then we will be doing the 4 sides. We have to stay centered, otherwise we're gonna getting a corkscrew. Get in there, and we'll just straighten the bar before we put it back in the bar. You always use the residual heat to fix your project, to put it back in before you put it back. I'm gonna keep going because we're not quite there. I use the reflection of the light to know where my line is. See, yeah, there we go. So it's pretty even. Now the next step is just going to be breaking those quarters down, going to a circle. Instead of a circle, but we're going to do round. So yes, now we just have to line our edges. And we're going to slowly rotate, break those corners down. At this point, we should not have any straight edges. If we see some, we're going to fix them up. This is how we're going to forge a round point. And if we want it super pointy for a chisel, we could use a file or put on the grinder. And we can just finish this section by hand if you want really pointy. The next one we want to do is the diamond. We're going to start with a square bar. And what's important is we're going to forge a point, start going square, but we're going to keep it on the diamond. And it's going to be pretty tricky. You can tell if you're going off square. Very important to keep our point centered, diamond centered, otherwise we're going to end up with a corkscrew bias. Very easy. Trick with this one is you gotta correct as you're going, as you're progressing forward. Getting there, it's looking pretty good actually, I'm pretty happy with it. You can see where we're trying to achieve here. these facets need to stay centered. We are drawing out the point. Well, hammer bump there to fix that. Do one more beat. Yeah, so as you can see, we're getting closer, but it's swelled a little bit on one side. Right there. It's not perfect. As Mark Aspery points out in his book, this is a great way to judge your progress as a smith. Putting a diamond. So it looks like I need more work. So it's pretty interesting to see how that works. Very good exercise, definitely worth practicing. Anyway, you get the idea. We're going to move on to the next one for now. Alright, then the last part, the Sword Dac, is the chisel tip. So we're going to start with a square bar, same thing, 1/2 inch square bar. And we're only going to draw out or taper on two sides. Clean it up. Maintain the width. We do not want to grow in width.
Here we want to establish a short taper.
Establish short taper, and once we're happy with it, over the edge of the anvil. Dress it the width we want, and then we're going to stretch it out, create our chisel tip. Establish a tip, pretty thin. Then we just have to stretch it the length of our anvil in this case. See, we got crisp. I don't know if you guys can see it. Edge. And then we could dress this end up. Or chisel tip with a file or grinder, or do heat treatment as needed. Alright, so we got it done. We got the Sword Dac Principle. Well, there you go, guys. So there was a video on Sword Dac Principles, and these principles are going to be helpful for all kinds of projects that you might want to work on. So I hope you learned something. If you have any questions or comments, please write that down below. Give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video, and help promote the channel. Like and subscribe. Keep on hammering. Thanks again.